Now we must speak about the process of development and change of meaning. We have already mentioned that the system of a polysemantic or polysemic word evolves gradually. So in fact, it takes a word years, decades, or even centuries to develop its semantic structure. And the older a word is, the better developed is its semantic structure. And so the ordinary pattern of a word semantic development is from monosemy to a simple semantic structure with a further movement to an increasingly more complex semantic structure. And today we shall have a closer look at the complicated processes by which words acquire new meanings. There are two aspects to this problem which can be generally described in the following way. Why and how? So why should new meanings appear at all? What circumstances cause and stimulate their development? And how does it happen? What is the nature of the very process of development of new meanings? And now let us deal with these questions in turn. And let us speak about the causes of development of new meaning. The first group of causes is traditionally termed historical or extralinguistic. And now let us try to explain what we mean by historical or extralinguistic causes. Different kinds of changes in nation's social life, in its culture, knowledge, technology, arts, lead to gaps appearing in the vocabulary which beg to be filled. Newly created objects, new concepts and phenomena must be named. And we know two well-known ways for providing new names for created concepts, for newly created concepts: making new words, word building, and borrowing foreign words. And of course, we shall deal with these problems later. One more way is by applying some old word to a new object or notion. For example, let us take the word mouse. It is a small animal that is covered in fur and has a long tail. And due to technological development, it acquired a new meaning. It added a new meaning to its semantic structure. A small device that is moved by hand across a surface to control the movement of the cursor on a computer screen. Or let us deal with some other examples. When first textile factories appeared in England, the old word mill was applied to these early industrial enterprises. In this way, mill, which is a Latin borrowing of the 1st century before Christ, added a new meaning to its former meaning, a building in which corn is ground into flour. And the new meaning was textile factory. A similar case is the word carriage, which had and still has the meaning of a vehicle drawn by horses. But with the first appearance of railways in England, it received a new meaning, that of a railway car. The history of English nouns describing different parts of a theater may also serve as a good illustration of how well-established words can be used to denote newly created objects and phenomena. The words stalls, box, pit, circle had existed for a long time before the first theatres appeared in England. With their appearance, the gaps in the vocabulary were easily filled by these widely used words, which as a result developed new meanings. New meanings can also be developed due to linguistic factors. The development of new meanings and also a complete change of meaning may be caused through the influence of other words, mostly of synonyms. And please pay attention to a very, very important fact, that most scholars distinguish between the terms development of meaning, so when a new meaning and the one on the basis of which it is formed coexist in the semantic structure of the word, as in mouse or in meal, in carriage, etc. and change of meaning, when the old meaning is completely replaced by the new one, as in the noun meat, for example, which in Old English had the general meaning of food, but in modern English is no longer used in that sense, and has instead developed the meaning of flesh of animals used as a food product. And now let us consider some examples. In Old English, verb starve meant to perish. When the verb to die was borrowed from Scandinavian, these two synonyms, which were very close in their meaning, collided, and as a result, to starve gradually changed into its present meaning, to die or suffer from hunger. The history of the noun deer is essentially the same. In Old English, deer, deor, had a general meaning denoting any beast, any kind of beast. In that meaning, it collided with the borrowed word animal and changed its meaning to the modern one, and now it means a certain kind of animal. The noun knave suffered an even more striking change of meaning as a result of collision with its synonym boy. Now it has a negative evaluative connotation and means swindler, scoundrel. And the students usually find it rather amusing that the noun knave suffered such a striking change. So it had the meaning of a boy, and now it means swindler, scoundrel. And now let us deal with the second question. The second question we must answer now is how the new meanings develop. To find the answer to this question, we must investigate the inner mechanism of this process, or at least its essential features. So, why was it that the word mouse and not some other word was selected to denote a device, a small device that is moved by hand across a surface to control the movement of the cursor on a computer screen? Well, there must have been some connection between the former sense of mouse and the new phenomena to which it was applied. Yes, there is certain connection. There is certain outward similarity between these two objects. So why was it that the word mill and not some other word was selected to denote the first textile factories? There must have been some connection between the former sense of mill and the new phenomena to which it was applied. Yes, there was apparently such a connection. Mills which produced flour were mainly driven by water. The textile factories also firstly used water power. So in general terms, the meanings of mill, both the old and new one, could be defined as an establishment using water power to produce certain goods. Thus, the first textile factories were easily associated with mills producing flour, and the new meaning of mill appeared due to this association. So in actual fact, all cases of development or change of meaning are based on some association. In the history of word carriage, the new traveling conveyance was also naturally associated in people's minds with the old one, horse-drawn vehicle and part of railway train. Both these objects were related to the idea of traveling. The job of both horse-drawn vehicle, horse-drawn carriage, and the railway carriage is the same, to carry passengers on a journey. So the association was logically well-founded. Stalls and box formed their meanings in which they denoted parts of the theater on the basis of a different type of association. The meaning of the word box, a small separate enclosure forming a part of a theater, developed on the basis of its former meaning, a rectangular container used for packing or storing things. The two objects became associated in speakers' minds because boxes in the earliest English theatres really resembled packing cases. They were enclosed on all sides and heavily curtained, even on the side facing the audience, so as to conceal the privileged spectators occupying them from curious or insolent stares. The association on which the theatrical meaning of stalls was based is even more curious. The original meaning was compartments in stables or sheds for accommodation of animals, goats, cows, horses, etc. There doesn't seem to be much in common, yes, between the privileged and expensive part of a theater and stables intended for cows, horses, and goats. Unless we take into consideration the fact that theaters in olden time greatly differed from what they are now. What is now known as the stalls was at that time standing space divided by barriers into sections, so as to prevent the enthusiastic crowd from knocking one another and hurting themselves. So there must have been a certain outward resemblance between theater stalls and cattle stalls. It is also possible that the word was first used maybe humorously or satirically in this new sense. The process of development of new meaning or change of meaning is traditionally termed transference. And please pay attention to a very important fact that some scholars use the term transference of meaning, and some scholars consider that the use of the term transference of meaning is a mistake. It's a serious mistake. Well, it is very important to note that in any case of semantic change, it is not the meaning, but the word that is being transferred from one referent onto another. So from a horse-drawn vehicle onto a railway car. So two types of transference are distinguishable depending on the two types of logical associations underlying the semantic process. And now we are going to speak about the two types of transference.